Hello, good evening and welcome to the midweek edition of Business Live. Coming up, inflation for October 2025 slows to 4-year low, declining to 8%. How does this consistent drop influence the cost of borrowing? We're live with the business community. Also in this bulletin, Ghana Revenue Authority launches the Sustained Tax Education Program and Modified Taxation Scheme to rake in more than 2 million taxpayers in the first half of its implementation.
2 million people for the next 3 years will be bringing into the tax net 10 billion Ghana cedis for phase 1.
Details of this and more for you. Please stay on. Thanks so much for your company. I am Pius Kojobaka. Headline inflation has dropped further to 8% in October 2025, marking the third consecutive monthly decline and the lowest rate since June 2021. According to data from the Ghana Statistical Service, the latest figure represents a continued easing from 9.4% recorded in September 2025. Here's a report.
Sustained downward trend reflects the impact of a stable currency, easing fuel prices, and improved food supply conditions across the country.
The 8% year-on-year inflation rate is lower than the September 2025 inflation rate of 9.4% by 1.4 percentage points, and far below the inflation rate of 23.8% we saw at the end of last year. This marks the 10th straight month of decline in inflation and the lowest inflation rate in 4 years. When we look at prices from September to October 2025, that is month-on-month inflation, prices actually fell a little by 0.4%. So on the average, things cost slightly less in October than in September. This continued slowdown confirms that Ghana's prices are stabilizing after a long period of volatility.
Food inflation fell sharply to 9.5% in October from 11% in September, while non-food inflation also declined to 6.9% from 8.2% over the same period.
This means that food prices went up 9.5% in October compared to last year. Food prices, however, fell by 1% between September and October this year, a sign that food costs are easing. Inflation for non-food items like clothes and rent declined to 6.9% in October from 8.2% in September. There was barely no change in non-food prices between September and October. Inflation for goods like rice, soap, or fuel slowed sharply to 9.3% in October from 11.2% in September. Month-to-month, good prices dropped by 0.7%.
At the regional level, the Bono East region recorded the lowest inflation rate of 1.1%, while the Northeast region posted the highest rate of 17.3%, though still down from 20.1% in September.
All right, so let's bring in the views of the business community on this trend and how it would affect cost of borrowing, basically. Joining us via Zoom is the president of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Stefan Bezan Abbas. Stefan, pleasure you could make time to join us here on Business Live. And first off, how do you expect the recent drop in inflation to 8%, for example, affect interest rates and cost of borrowing in Ghana?
Well, it is good news. I think that the governor of Bank of Ghana and the finance minister are doing something right on the fiscal and the monetary side, which has brought this improvement in our inflation. With interest rate going down, it means that cost of borrowing has reduced. But we cannot always talk about cost of borrowing without talking about access to the fund. Okay, so in as much as cost of borrowing goes down, access should also be relaxed, for want of a better word. Now it is still difficult to access funding from our banks. Okay, so borrowing costs can go down, but accessing it is difficult. When I listened to the report, there's something that also came to mind, which has to do with imported inflation, which also went up. And that is a sign to us as Ghanaians to look inward of patronizing locally made goods and services, which is very important. Because if we keep looking for the dollar to import, what it means is that we're weakening our currency. So that is another area that we need to be very much interested in. So having said that, interest rates have gone down, which is very good, but access to the fund is still a challenge, which is something that the government needs to look at very much.
And I want you to throw more light on that for me. When you say access to funds is a challenge, what exactly do you mean? What really is the difficulty?
The difficulty is that you still don't get access to the fund. It means that when you go to the banks, they don't give you the money. They don't borrow you the money.
Why?
The requirements are so detrimental, such that, and it's also because the banks are concentrating on trying to buy the treasury bills and the bonds. Do you understand? So they prefer that as an avenue of investment as compared to bringing the money into industry and into commerce. So that is where access becomes very difficult. The banks are not giving the monies, the loans to the consuming public. Okay, so that is where the access is. So the interest can be down, but if they are not giving you the money or borrowing you the money, then you don't get access to it. So it's a zero game effect. It has no effect on us anyway.
I see.
So in as much as cost goes down, access should be liberal.
All right, we shall follow up on that with the banks. But as you make progress, how will the decrease in inflation influence your business operations, particularly in terms of pricing strategies and profit margins?
Okay, so the decrease in inflation is supposed to help us actually make things cheaper for us. So we want to encourage our vendors to actually look at not hiking prices up because inflation is going down. And we're also encouraging them not to still use the same excuse as we bought things with the old rate to the Ghana cedi to the dollar. And for that reason, we want to recoup. I think that excuse is long overdue. We need to consider the consuming public, and we want to encourage Ghanaian traders and manufacturers especially to ensure that they meet up to what inflation tells us.
President of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Stefan Mezaban, thank you so much for joining us here on Business Live. Now, let's make progress to some other stories. The Ghana Revenue Authority has launched the Sustained Tax Education Program and the Modified Taxation Scheme to rake in more than 2 million taxpayers in the first year of its implementation. The move is aimed at increasing tax revenues for the country to support national development. Acting Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Anthony Kwesi-Sapong, is hopeful the initiative will boost tax to GDP ratio in the next 3 years. More in this report.
The Ghana Revenue Authority developed the two policy initiatives aimed to simplify tax payment and increase tax awareness across the country. According to the Commissioner General Anthony Sapong, the initiative has the potential of adding more than 10 billion cedis to domestic tax revenue annually.
We estimate that potentially the population of this segment is about 8 million. We plan to target enrolling about 2 million potentially within the next 3 years into the tax net. If we do so with an average of 5,000 Ghana cedis per individual for 2 million people for the next 3 years, we'll be bringing into the tax net 10 billion Ghana cedis for phase 1. In the phase 2, we'll work to bring in the additional 6 billion into the tax net, and that will bring in additional 30 billion Ghana cedis into the tax net.
Deputy Minister for Finance, Thomas Nyakwampem, hinted that the 2026 budget, which will be presented next week Thursday, will have some tax reliefs for citizens.
Those of you who have been following parliamentary debate while in opposition he kept complaining about Ghana's VAT system and that our VAT architecture is too cumbersome and burdensome on the taxpayer. And so he will take steps to restructure it and to reduce the burden on Ghanaians. I'm here to inform you that next Thursday, he will present the 2026 budget to the Parliament and the people of Ghana on behalf of His Excellency President Mahama, and he will fulfill that promise as well.
Speaking on behalf of the President, Chief of Staff at the Office of the President, Julius Debra, commended the GRA for such a bold initiative, but urged them to pay attention to night businesses since the 24-hour economy is in full force.
One area I urge the authorities to also pursue vigorously, and which is in line with the 24-hour economy initiative, is to focus on players in the night market economy. Some businesses operate only at night, and it is very easy for them to escape our lenses. However, if we are working around the clock, not just as the frontiers, we should be able to bring all these businesses into the tax net.
The campaign is launched under the theme Promoting Voluntary Compliance Through Sustained Tax Education.
We have the Joy Business Van for you after this break. Welcome back to Business Life. Let's now take the Joy Business Van. Startup Jakarta is not just poised to protect the environment through sustainable fashion products, but create employment opportunities in less privileged parts of the country. We bring you the second part of our feature on Jakarta, which recycles used grains into shoes, bags, clothing, and jewelry.
5 years ago, Oakbell Majdoub lost her banking job. She knows very well what it feels like to be out of a job. Then, she decided it was time to explore her creative skills. That's when she started Jakarta, recycling used grain bags into fashion products.
When we came out in 2019, the receptive acceptance of this was, wow, this is different. I want to wear something which is different. And in 2019, the traffic was at a peak because for everybody, this was new. And they actually wanted to have something that no one has. So it now became a philosophy of my sack, like I said, and my sack in my own colors.
As demand increases, Oakbell realizes she has to increase capacity. Ghana's only jute factory, which could have supported with supply of raw materials, closed down a long time ago.
The factory had been closed down, so to collect the used fabrics and to be able to reuse it, there was nowhere to get it. Sourcing became a challenge, but I had to break that ground. And so I moved sourcing and made sure I could get the material into town. So we sourced the materials from India and we brought it in. Based on that, we developed further to ensure that we could always have regularity with what we have. Stock was put in together. So we have the stock for the materials. And that was great, and for us till now, we've been doing that.
Today, we follow Oakbell on her rounds at Medina, a suburb of Ghana's capital, Accra. She's meeting artisans she works with. She comes up with the concepts, explains to them exactly what she wants, then they produce. As the business grows, Oakbell has started skill development projects with children in less privileged communities.
It's been a lot of stories, one after the other, ensuring that things are done right, having the right culture and ethics to things. And one of the things I've actually gathered within the communities in which we serve and has been to ensure that they get it is to know how to think strategically. So one thing I have invested heavily with even the young team that I work with is to ensure that they take ownership of the products they bring. So once you're an owner of a brand, so like Unilever would do, once you're an owner of a brand, it is up to you to make sure your brand grows.
Oakbell is eyeing the export market with her foot already in neighboring Côte d'Ivoire.
We're looking at scaling up our production to be able to meet the demands that come in, because we're looking at exports. In doing that, we're looking at making sure that we have a space, a bigger space, where we can host more of our artisans. We don't have to have dispersed places for the artisans. Currently, I'm hosting my artisans in various spaces that I could have put them in one space if I had investment for a bigger space where we could put all the machinery. We're very open to making sure that, and the privilege, who have the arts, the skill of art, and want to move into things that have to do with fashion, can have a place in our space to be able to bring up their concepts. We develop with them, we ensure that standardizations can be done around their designs, and then we move out from there with them.
Oakbell is not losing sight of one of the main reasons for starting Jakarta, which is to protect the environment, as grain sacks which could have ended up in landfill sites are made into useful products.
Because so many things in our environment that we need to protect. So we ensure that in doing that, how do we do it? That's the process we're asking. Is to be able to ensure that all design concepts that come out have things that relatively have things out of nature, maybe a leaf, maybe a tree that has been falling out. Those inspirations come out from there, and then we make the designs based on that. So we actually are looking forward to ensuring that we're not just producing products, but we're producing products that save the environment. That's what we are looking at.
There is more that can be done with the grain sacks. Oakbell is already exploring new ideas.
We want to make it a complete man or a complete woman. So when you walk and you say, my sack, your sack should be from your head to your toe, to your body, everything about it. So we're looking at advancing things to do with designs with the jewelry. So we're coming out with different concepts, things like earrings that can be done. How can these ones be worn? What are we doing with our ethnic beads, with our gold materials we have here? You know, Ghana is known for gold. And it's a lot of investment to put gold onto these things. Not everybody can afford a gold, but everybody can afford a sustainable fabric that has been used in a bead, something ethnic. I have a dream to make sure the brand is accepted internationally. In 3 years from now, we're looking at exporting out of Ghana. I'm actually scaling Jakarta to businesses like we have like DTRT, which exports out of country. So in 3 years' time, we're looking at ourselves building our potentials into exports, ensuring that we're doing skills development for our young youth we have who are underprivileged and deprived, and ensuring that we also return back the investments we get into the communities for developments.
And that's it for Business Live. I am Pius Kojobaka. Feel free to log on to myjoyonline.com/business. See you at 8 p.m. with Prime Business.